And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here, and today we're going to take a look at a game that's been out for quite some time. It's called Super Dungeon Explorer, and as you may glean from the way that it sounds, this is a dungeon exploring game in which one player will play the bad guys, or the dungeon itself with all of its bad guys that inhabit it, and the other players, be it anywhere from one to, as many as you want more, will be playing the heroes, trying to vanquish the denizens of the dungeon, and, whoever accomplishes their goal first, either clearing the dungeon or defeating the heroes, is going to be the winner. So real quick, why don't we take a look at what you get inside this box and how the game plays, and then we'll come back here and get my final opinions on it. The first thing you'll notice when you open a box of Super Dungeon Explorer is that there are a ton of good, high-quality minis. And here we're looking at the boss dragon named Starfire, and the two mini-bosses included in the game, which are both titled Rex and are kobold ogres. To assist the evil minions, or the bosses and the mini-bosses in their plan to destroy the heroes, we have a kobold army. And here you can see knuckleheads, you can see iron scales, some flingers, some gougers, a pair of dragon priests, and then 4 spawn points for the kobolds that you'll be able to use to bring these creatures out onto the board during the game. To round off the bad guys, we have the fire drakes, or the drakes, that are going to spawn from this egg clutch. And you're going to have 3 different types. There are hatchlings, you're going to have some whelps, and you're going to have a couple of whelps and wormlings that you can put out onto the board if you've taken the right set of cards as the bad guys. On the opposing side, as the heroes, we have a whole group of different characters you can play. You have the Deep-Root Druid, who can become a giant bear on one of his turns. You have a fighter, and you have a rogue here. You're going to have a sorceress and a fire mage, as well as a barbarian, a paladin, and a ranger, all of whom will have different characteristics you can use to try and defeat the dungeon master and his evil minions. So after you've seen those minis, just a reminder that none of those miniatures come painted or assembled. As a matter of fact, they come in many little parts. So, one of these minis may have 6 or so different parts that you have to glue together, the dragon having a ton, and they don't come painted up nicely like that. That was done by a local company called Two Girls and a Paintbrush. If you're interested in having them paint, you can definitely look up their site, and I'll post it here. But anyhow, this is the rest of the components for the game, minus some cards. There's some cards here for each of the different little figures in the game, but the game is going to be played inside a dungeon, which is going to be represented by these tiles. Now, I'm only showing you one because they're so big, but you'll note that there's several other tiles. They're double-sided with different terrain on them, and you choose which ones you want to use, and you use more if there's more players. The game is designed as a 2-player game, but can be played from anywhere from 2 to 6, really, with one person playing the bad guys, and up to 5 people playing the heroes. And the game scales appropriately. Now, at the beginning of the game, each person is going to choose a hero, whoever's on the hero side. So you might choose your heroes, and they're going to start up to 4 spaces into the dungeon, against any one side that's not attached to another tile. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe this hero starts there, and we put another hero out here. In addition to this, the bad guy is going to choose how they want to play, and based on how many players there are, they're going to get to choose a specific number of spawn points. Now, some of these spawn points have to be chosen together. When you get the kobold warrens, you have to choose 2 of them, and if you get the wyvern or whatever it is, worm hatching area, there's only one of these in the base game. So if you're playing a smaller game, you're going to choose 3 of these spawn points. If you're playing a larger game, you're going to choose all 5, which really doesn't give you much of a choice as to what you're going to include, but gives you a lot of guys to work with. If you choose the kobolds, you get, half those kobold minions. If you choose both sets of kobold spawning points, you're going to get all the kobold minions. And if you choose the worm one, you're going to get the worms. So once you've chosen those, you're going to put the spawning points out on the board. And only one of these spawning points can go per area. In addition, you have some treasure chests that I didn't show you, and you're going to place one of these in each area as well. Only one per map in order to distribute where the treasure is and try and protect that treasure from the heroes who are trying to collect it. Now, after everyone has chosen their minis and gotten everything ready, they're going to start by playing the game. And the first thing that happens is that the Dungeon Master is going to be able to summon minions from each of his little spawn points here. So each of these representative spawn points that's out on the different boards will spawn minions. And you're going to be able to spawn what's called 4 skulls worth of minions per spawn point. And you'll look at the different things here. So we have the Kobold Warrens, which is this spawn point. It has hit points on it. You can see there it has 3 hit points. So the heroes are going to try and destroy these to keep more monsters coming out. But then each guy, for example, the Iron Scale here, has a skull cost that he costs to summon, 2 in this case. So the Warren says that he can summon these guys, and this says that it costs 2 skulls to summon him. It costs 1 for the flingers and 1 for the knuckleheads, so let's say that our bad guy here decides to spawn 1 each of those guys. So he places these out surrounding the spawn point, and they're now out there available to fight or be killed by our heroes. And after this, you're going to do what's called rolling initiative. This will happen each turn. You're going to see who goes first, the monsters or our heroes. And when they roll initiative, they're going to be rolling a value on one of the 2 heroes that's in play for the hero side. So you'll see here, we have initiative here of Will. You'll roll 1 of these blue dice and 1 red die if you were to choose this character. And the same is true for the paladin. He rolls 1 blue and 1 red for his will. So he rolls these and he would count how many stars you get. In this case, it's 1. The bad guy is also going to choose one of his models to roll initiative for. So he'll probably have many more models to choose between, and he'll choose his best. So for example, if he wanted to use the iron scale, he'd roll 2 blue dice. If he wanted to use the flinger, he'd roll 2 blue dice as his will. The will is actually the same for all 3 of these guys, so he's going to roll 2 blue dice and add up all of the stars, and in this case he gets none, so our heroes would go first. Ties would always go to the heroes. At this point, the heroes get to decide in which order they want to activate. Now, each hero has a whole plethora of statistics. You can see their movement value of 6. They get 3 actions. They have an attack of 3 blue dice, an armor of a blue and a red, a will of a blue and a red, and a dex of 2 blue. Now, blue dice are worse than red dice, which are worse than green dice. So getting more dice of better colors is always going to work for you. In addition, you can see we have skills down here. We have an action you can take called Iron Halo, which says it augments and has an aura of 3, which means it affects everybody within 3 squares, and it gives them +1 armor. So this is going to be kind of a defense guy. In addition, he has a special attack, which says he can add +1 red die to his attack, and it gives knockdown and fire. Fire will continue to do damage, and knockdown will slow people down for movement. In addition, each player starts with potions and hit points. You'll see here we have 5 hit points on this guy, and he has 1 potion. And during the game, he can use that potion to heal for 3, and it will get rid of status effects. That's what Remedy does. And the sorceress would have different powers and different statistics, but, you know, this is going to play in a similar manner. You're going to move around and take actions. So each player would activate their character. 1 player from the heroes, then you're going to activate a certain number of monsters, and then back to the heroes, and then back to the monsters. So you may activate your hero to start moving, and you know each square is 1, diagonals are fine, so maybe you move the paladin first, and he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he stops here, and he wants to hit this guy here, and he would roll his attack to do so. Now, moving doesn't take any actions, but let's say he wanted to use one of his actions to do a melee attack. That would simply roll his attack value, and he would roll through 3 blue dice using an action, and he gets a heart, which would allow him to, or anyone on the map, to heal up 1 heart or remove a status effect, and 1 in terms of star attack. At the same time, the guy he's attacking, which is an iron scale, would roll their defense, and you'd look at the iron scale card. And he has a armor of 2. It's a base of 2. 2 there with no dice means he automatically gets a 2, and you would actually miss in this case, not doing any damage to him. If you go over the armor, you're going to deal a maximum of 1 damage unless you have any effects that deal damage. Above and beyond that, but when you hit, you're going to do A damage. And you would put a marker on the card to show you the damage. Now, this guy only has 1 hit point, so if you were to hit him, he would die and be removed from the board, but be able to be summoned back later. You're going to keep doing this using actions, whether it be specific ones on your cards, or just the base action of attacking, or maybe opening a treasure chest and getting a treasure item that you can use with any of the people on the board. Until you finish using your 3 actions or decide not to use them. Each point of damage that you deal is going to move the loot marker up if you're dealing it to an enemy, meaning that the good guys are damaging the bad guys. In addition, it's going to move up this track here, which is going to determine how big of monsters you can summon during the game when you're the bad guy, and at specific points, it's going to give you extra summoning power. When you get to these skulls here, you can summon an extra skull worth of guys during your summoning turn by turning in these tokens. So hitting him would give us a point, and when the enemy hits back, it's going to go up more, accelerating this. On the enemy's turn, they're going to activate 4 points worth of skulls. Again, we're talking about the points that are printed on the cards here. So, for example, the Iron Skull is worth 2. If you activate him, that's 2 of your points. They're going to work in exactly the same way, moving around using their movement value, taking the action points that are on the cards, using their abilities, and trying to damage our heroes, who can take damage likewise, up to their hit point value, for example, 5 on here. Now, There's all these potions and different status effects, just like your normal dungeon crawl, that are going to affect how everybody works here. But essentially, once everybody is activated, all of the heroes have gone, and all of the bad guys have alternated on all of the boards, you're going to move on to the next round. So as you deal damage, this loot thing will go up, and if you get to any of these loot spots, you can draw a loot card and distribute it to any hero on the board. So for example, you have here a diamond shield, which is going to add 1 to your attack. And this would go and get equipped to a specific part on your hero. If you look at your hero, it has 4 different sides. There's gems on each side, and this one goes on the green side, giving you a plus attack to your hero. So that's going to be good, but at the end of the round, this loot thing is going to reset. So you want to deal as much damage in one round as you can to get as many loot points, but it resets at the end of the round. In addition, each damage dealt by anyone will keep this track going up, but this doesn't reset. The reason this doesn't reset is you're trying to, as the bad guy, get up to this 16-bit area, which will allow you to summon bigger monsters and also allow you to summon things like these mini-bosses, which have a lot more hit points and a lot better abilities, so they're great to get out on the board and try and do a lot of damage to the heroes. If you're playing a smaller game and you get all the way up to Super, this is when you can summon the big boss. This guy's automatically going to come out when you get to that point, or if all of the spawning points are destroyed, this guy comes out. And if you're the heroes, you definitely want to destroy all the spawning points before the big bad guy comes out, because if you don't, he gets to activate twice if there's any spawning points left, and he's going to wipe you out fast. Regardless, after the heroes have gone and the enemies have gone, you're going to reset this thing here. You're going to leave this marker wherever it's at, and you're going to go to a new round of spawning, at which point, our bad guy will get to spawn more of his minions. Maybe he wants to spawn some dragons this time. He brings them out. You can see here, if you don't start wiping out spawning points, you don't start wiping out monsters, you're going to have a big problem with your heroes, because you're going to have a ton of monsters coming at you. They get more attacks than you do, because there's more of them, and eventually they're going to overwhelm you if you don't start taking out spawning points. Anyhow, you continue in this manner until, like I said, either all of these are destroyed, summoning the big bad guy, or until this marker gets all the way up to here because enough damage has been dealt between the heroes and the monsters to summon the big bad guy. Basically the goal is, as the heroes, to try and kill this dragon, and as the dragon to try and kill the heroes. And whoever successfully accomplishes their objective first is going to be the winner. Now, note that there are all types of different status effects and effects on the ground and tokens that change how the game works. There's healing, and there's fire and poison and weakening and all types of stuff that modify gameplay. But as it is, it's basically a dungeon crawl game with one side directly opposing the other that allows you to spawn a bunch of guys, have an epic combat, and whoever accomplishes their goal first will be the winner. Well, there you have it. That is Super Dungeon Explorer. A pretty good dungeon exploration game. I'm not really into dungeon exploration games, so it's not my favorite game. But I think it does the dungeon exploration thing very well. I like the fact that you have 2 different sides you can play. It's not a cooperative entirely. You have one player who's trying to get rid of everyone else. So it's, again, all against one type of scenario. It very well simulates the feel of an RPG type thing where you have different status effects and different abilities. You may attack with your dexterity, or you may attack with your attack. Sometimes you attack with your willpower. Some characters have ranged attacks. Some have magic. Some can shoot around corners at times. There's all kinds of different things, including even status effects from different types of terrain. Now, the biggest complaints about the game isn't anything having to do with gameplay, but there's been a lot of complaining about the different miniatures that come with it. The fact that they don't come assembled, which is fine, but they're not beginner-friendly miniatures. They come with like 6 different pieces, and some of them, some are only 2, but some are 6 pieces. And you have to glue them together. You have to, scrape all the little extra stuff off of them. If you want, you can paint them, which makes it look a lot better. Again, thanks to 2 girls and a paintbrush for painting mine. But it's not beginner friendly. So if you're looking for something you can just pop out of the box and play, Super Dungeon Explorer is not the game for you. However, if you're looking for a good dungeon crawling, dungeon exploring game that's going to offer you a lot of replayability, especially with the expansions, take a look at Super Dungeon Explorer from Soda Pop Miniatures.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.